Greetings, everyone. Welcome to the Segovia show. Today's episode was it's a bit impromptu because I was gonna play more like a throwback episode today, but I was waiting for Trump's speech at Davos regarding. He was gonna outline at some point something about a affordability plan for housing here in the United States, and I saw some clippings. Well, I saw that it was clipped out, so now I had to find this for myself. I've been in meetings all day, so I wasn't able to give it my attention, unfortunately. But I'm like, you know what? I need to fire up the camera and I need to get reacting to this because I need to find out what President Trump was outlining because he did tease about this, and I did get a flash over from what's their names, the realtors.com, where they outline a few things. But I think I found where he says it on his Davos speech. I queued it up to 48 minutes from the Rapid Response X account, and I'll get to that. So I'm going to be sharing it. I'll react with you. So hopefully this is the spot. Otherwise, I'll jump over to Realtor.com's breakdown of what Trump said. And I do have a copy of the web link of the executive order where Trump outlines what he's proposing. But before I get into any of that, I gotta give a shout out to all those of you that are tuning in today. That includes you locals over on YouTube, Twitch, X, of course here on Rumble Stream, Ganjin World, Play TV, Substack, D Live. This is going out to all of you. Cheers to you. We're halfway through the week. All right. It's been a very productive week, very different from last week, and I'm excited to get through this talking about real estate stuff because for those of you that are not familiar with me, and there's a few of you that are new subscribers to the channel, thank you very much. For those of you on YouTube that are probably finding me because of tech stuff, you're gonna quickly realize that's not the only thing that I do here. So business is the bread and butter of what I do, and that would be real estate construction and property management. And this whole housing affordability thing affects all three. So I thought I might have more time today to be able to go over a couple of things, but I'm just gonna do the reaction to Trump's thing. So let me just tease it now that tomorrow. I'm hoping that tomorrow I'm able to stream around the same time. I'm going to be reacting to what Ben Shapiro was saying regarding housing affordability on Gavin Newsom's podcast. I was going to just react to that, but then I saw Steven Crowder did his own reaction thing too. So it might be a reaction to a reaction. So, excuse me, we'll see how that turns out. But I think some of them are getting some things right, some of them are getting some things wrong. I've seen some of the clippings, I haven't seen the entirety of that. So I'll save from my real reaction with you all, just like I'm doing today with Trump's speech. So for those of you that are joining me across everywhere else, thank you so very much. I encourage you to participate in the chat, particularly if you're on topic, okay? So I'll be able to see those of you over on Play TV, and a shout out to all of those of you here on Rumble and locals. So let me write to everyone, welcome to the stream. Uh, and if I get enough joining in, I will plan to raid another stream. So I prefer, if you can, jump on over to Rumble so we could send some people over to support other small creators here on the Small Creators Program on Rumble. Anyway, enough of that. Let's get going with what the leader of the free world had to say at Davos. So he said a lot of stuff for sure, but I skipped over to the part where he's supposed to be speaking. And I'm keeping an eye to make sure that StreamYard doesn't cut off the audio here. All right, so I'm going to make this a little bigger so we can see the video. But I sped up the video a little bit. Yeah, it's at one and a quarter times speed. Okay, so let me get to that. And let's hit play and let's see what he had to say.
Again, you could say 1,000%, 2,000%, depends on the way you want to figure it, but we'll go with the way the fake news likes it better because it sounds, can you imagine a 90% reduction sounds much worse? But drug prices are going to be coming down tremendously in all the nations, and I appreciate them doing it, but they did it. In all fairness, without tariffs, I wouldn't have been able to get it done. After declining $3,000 under Biden, real incomes are up in the United States by $2,000, $3,000, and even $5,000 and more. Home ownership has always been a symbol of health and vigor of American society, but that goal fell out of reach for millions and millions of people in the Biden era because interest rates went up so high. Today, I'm taking...
Let me pause right there and say California is where I am. Okay. Before I get into any deeper, because I know there's like a political jab taken there. It is true. Interest rates went up really high. I would say from 2022, from 21, 22 was really like the jumping off point where it skyrocketed. But what also happened at the time with the increase of inflation was just how slow the income was growing. It wasn't keeping up pace with inflation. But there were a bunch of other factors that came into play. This is also after the COVID lockdowns of 2020 that just decimated a bunch of businesses. People had to sell things off. At the same time, a bunch of other people that were just renting became homeowners, and a lot of these people were called high earner renters, and they helped push the prices up. So in California, we affect the statistics throughout the entire country. So you can have a median price of a home on a national level. The lion's share of that pricing is us. So California, up until not too long ago, was still for every other house, it was being bought in cash. So that means one house was getting a mortgage, another one was paid off as soon as they bought it. Some of those were not institutional investors, although we're seeing more of that, especially after the fires. But we're also seeing well, at the time, we're also seeing foreign investment of people that were buying here. So it's people investing in the United States, buying up property here and things like that. And so those were things that helped factor into play. I know because I was a part of those deals. Okay, so just throwing that stuff out there. Let's see what Trump has to continue saying about this issue.
Taking action to bring back this bedrock of the American dream. In recent years, Wall Street giants and institutional investment firms, many of you are here, many of you are good friends of mine, many of you are supporters. Sorry to do this, Joe, I'm so sorry. But you've driven up housing prices by purchasing hundreds of thousands of single-family homes, and it's been a great investment for them. Often as much as 10% of houses on the market. You know, the crazy thing is a person can't get depreciation on a house, but when a corporation buys it, they get depreciation. Okay, that's something we're going to have to think about too. I don't know if too many people think about that. You buy a corporation.
Let me pause that right there. He is very, very right about that. Depreciating a property, if you have an estate you're building up, you can file that on your taxes about depreciating a property. In businesses, and that's all tax stuff. I can't go into all the details because even I don't understand all the intricacies of that, but that's something that people end up learning whenever I educate them about entering to become, well, to graduate from being a tenant to being a homeowner. There's a lot of tax benefits to that, as it should be, and also a tax cost because the government wants to make sure you never actually own your entire property. So property taxes exist. That is theft. They should be abolished, but we have it. So just letting you know that this is completely something else when he talks about depreciation. So those are those things that there's a lot of logistics that go into play. It isn't just a matter of, oh, he's a homeowner now, that means he has a lot of money. No, it requires a lot of investment, a lot of time, a lot of sacrifice to be able to maintain a home, especially when you consider all the overhead that goes into it. So I make sure whenever I talk to my clients to inform them about those things, because it's a very different world than when you're renting. So some people, when they move from being a tenant to being a property owner, like their own home, or they buy a duplex and they live on one and rent the other, they learn really fast. Like, holy smokes, I didn't understand it about my landlord. So just thought I'd include that because Trump is right. So some people don't really think about that, and they should.
They buy 500 houses. They buy hundreds of thousands. They buy 500 houses. They can take depreciation. A person sweats and works and buys one house, they can't. But homes are built for people, not for corporations, and America will not become a nation of renters. We're not going to do that. That's why I have signed an executive order banning large institutional investors from buying single-family homes. It's just not fair to the public. They're not able to buy a house. And I'm calling on Congress to pass that ban into permanent law, and I think they will. One of the biggest barriers to saving for a down payment has been surging credit card debt. The profit margin for credit card companies now exceeds 50%, one of the biggest. And they charge Americans interest rates of 28%, 30%, 31%, 32%. Whatever happened to usury? Yeah. So to help our citizens recover from the Biden disaster, all caused by this horrible precedent, I'm asking Congress to cap credit card interest rates at 10% for 1 year. Wow, and this will help millions of Americans save for a home. They have no idea they're paying 28%. They go out there a little late in their payment and they end up losing their house. It's terrible. To unleash innovation in savings and financing, I'm also working to ensure America remains the crypto capital of the world.
Okay. I think I saw a clipping about the real estate stuff, so I wonder if that's all that was said about that. So I'm not going to play a little more. In fact, I'm going to pull up that article I mentioned from Realtor.com that breaks it down because it looks like they went over the executive order. So actually, let me pull up the executive order first. So let's see what he outlined in the executive order. This is from White House, whitehouse.gov. It's called Stopping Wall Street from Competing with Main Street Home Buyers. Executive Orders, January 20, 2026. By the authority vested in me as president by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, it is hereby ordered. Section 1, Purpose and Policy. Buying and owning a home has long been considered the pinnacle of American dream and a way for families to invest and build lifetime wealth. Yeah, and I'll come back to that, by the way. I think you said this in the speech, right? But because the recent high inflation and interest rates caused by the previous administration, not just that, by the way, that American dream has been increasingly out of reach for too many of our citizens, especially first-time homebuyers. You know what? That's a good question. What I have a figure, but let me just make sure it's a national figure. What is the median age of home um, owners in America today? Okay. That's a good one. All right, I'm gonna share with you that shocking statistic because that's in line with the stuff that I saw from some of the financial institutions that I follow and real estate publications that I subscribe to. And once again, thank you so much for those of you that are joining over on Locals, Twitch, of course I'm on Rumble, YouTube, X, D Live, Ganjin World, Play TV, Substack. This is all business today. We're talking about housing affordability, and I'll give you my 2 cents as a real estate broker, how I view this. Okay, so he is to preserve a supply. I'm skipping a little. To preserve a supply of single family homes for American families and increase the path of homeownership, it is the policy of my administration that large institutional investors should not buy single family homes that could otherwise be purchased by families. Okay, I wonder if that applies also to burnt down properties because then that would definitely rule out all this investment property being purchased up in the burnt out regions in Los Angeles, the Palisades and Altadena. Because the last figure that I saw, I think, was at the mid December, 40% of the burnt out properties that have been sold in the Palisades and Altadena have been bought up by investors. And they're not going to build a single family home on that thing, especially since Governor Gavin Newsom, who I think Trump roasted at the speech, I hope so, because this fool, because of racism, ended up getting rid of the single family zoning in California. This is a response to something that was supposedly unearthed regarding the history of single family zoning during the Summer of Love and BLM and things like that. And then us as real estate professionals needed to get education on the, I guess, it's inherent racism that was built into policies and such, and this and that or the other. But the point is, it became mandatory education about something that did not exist and was taken out of context too. And I gone over that in a different episode that I might restream for Rumble. But anyway, so restrictions on the state of single family homes, which could, oh, by the way, and single families homes there's something called zoning. Okay, so if you have you go to suburbia, for example, and you're going to see these houses and white picket fence and all that stuff, what you envision as a neighborhood, those are those are likely single family, not just single family homes, but single family zoned areas. What that means is if you decide to demolish that house and you want to build apartment units, you can't do that because it's zoned for a single family home. Okay, that means you got to rebuild a home. You can make it bigger if you want, so long as it's within the confines of the property and the boundaries that are afforded to that region. Okay. There's something called R1, R2, R3, R4, then we get to commercial. So after R4, which is like 4 units to a lot, so that means you can have 2 buildings, like one is it's split into 2 units to rent. For example, that's what people tend to do. You could have another set of that in the back. So that's up to 4. if it's an area where it's called R4. Anything beyond that's considered commercial. Now, commercial is where we're getting into, say you're building a bunch of apartments, or you're building a commercial at the bottom and then apartments above it and things like that. So there's a lot of stuff that was done, and single family zoning is officially eliminated in California. So what that means is, in a suburban area, if someone demolishes a house, there is no rule to stop them from building more than one livable space in that. So it could be two houses, it could be three, four, or homes, and they would be in the form of apartment units, or they might convert the garage to what is called an accessory dwelling unit, or better known as an ADU, and then they'll have two homes to a lot. See, the reason we had zoning and we had building code and rules is because the space would not allow for any more of that. You cannot have more than one building in single family zone. You cannot have more than one structure because there's not enough space, and because you need a garage and a place to put a car, because ideally speaking, the streets were not made for parking. It was made for transit. And in some cases, depending on where you are, is where the kids play. But in the advent of people, a lot of multi-generational people living in a home, now you have like 10 cars to a house or something like that. I'm exaggerating, but I'm not kidding when I say there's 5 or 6 cars to a property now. And you know this because they're clogging up the streets, they're clogging up the driveway, and sometimes they park on their lawn. So when they take up all that space, now it's an eyesore. It's disgusting. But what's going on is there's going to be more of that for those that want to own a car. When you get to where, okay, you have a house, and now, oh, so single family zoning is eliminated. That means I could convert my garage into a livable space legally and get what is called a certificate of occupancy, COO, signed off by a building inspector to say I can rent that out legally or live in there if I want to without any recourse from the fire department. Great. But don't I need parking because I'm eliminating my garage from spaces? No, you don't. That's the law that did away with parking. And then it went even further, or it removed parking restrictions. But then it went to an extent that we haven't seen with the removal of single family zoning. And because of that, there are places that are being demolished that are single family homes. This happened to my friend who was looking at what was his neighbor was doing, because it was bought up by an investor, and put 4 units on a single family home lot. So just giving you an idea of what's actually happening. So this restriction, I am definitely in favor of, because they're ruining the identity of these areas, but it also services the favor of the previous administration. The Biden administration wanted to do rent control at the federal level, which would then control the prices of rent throughout the country, as if that ever worked anywhere. And then also wanted to get rid of suburbia, wanted to turn it into urban spaces. In other words, population density, build apartments there, low-income housing, or for the homeless, or whatever it is. They wanted to do that because they wanted to get rid of suburban areas. Disgusting. It's been an attack on the American dream since the very beginning. So I am definitely in favor of what Trump is suggesting here, by at least putting a stop for institutional investors to buy up homes. Now, I was in favor of it when I barely heard about it before it became a bigger controversy, when BlackRock, at the time, not many people knew it in those places, like big names for those that didn't know. So I saw that BlackRock was buying up single family homes to back up their investments into their employees or whatever, instead of stocks out of like in the East Coast. So when I heard that, I'm like, hey, that's a pretty smart move, because real property is a greater investment than it is when it comes to dealing with a very volatile thing like stocks. And it's not really liquid for you to move one house to another, because it requires time. And especially if you're an investor, you can't just buy now and then sell it immediately for a higher price because you made some improvements to it. No, there's actually rules that some time has to pass by, depending on where you are. It could be 90 days, depending on the type of loan that would buy it, unless you're selling it wholesale or off market. That's a different story. But publicly, different rules apply, especially when it's going to be backed by a federal housing authority loan, which is called FHA, or you go conventional, and it's to each their own when it comes to the banks. But at the end of the day, all those mortgages go back to government agencies called Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. And there's another one called Jeannie Mac. I just forget what they run. And I am keeping on the chat, everybody. I have the side window over here. Thank you, I know. I see you over there, Gonzalez at Play TV. I know you want streaming to be open for everyone. That's it's not a topic about what I'm talking about here. And I already told this to Parler, but as Parler also mentioned, it's not just open to anybody because there needs to be some kind of verification thing. But the verification thing right now, since they don't have like a subscription thing you can buy, it requires you to at least build a following and things like that. So live search. I see you over on Rumble. Thanks for joining. Many cities zone properly. Some are free for all. Soon we need enough roof space for our self-driving drones. Almost there, almost there. Right? We're all going to need helipads. But when it comes to many cities zoned properly, yes. But the thing is, those have been eroded slowly but surely. And in the case of California, was the first to go to the extreme in which they did. While they zone in a certain way, the end goal is actually to try to keep up with an agenda. Some people will obviously they usually chalk it up to a conspiracy theory, but no, it was something that was going to happen. This was in Rio de Janeiro, one of the G summits. It took place in Brazil. It was under George H.W. Bush, 1991, I think it was, where we signed on to a green initiative called Agenda 2025. The idea was, and this is probably why you've seen it, it's where you demolish these old dilapidated buildings or whatever, and convert them into commercial space at the bottom and then build apartments above it. So some of these buildings can be several feet, several stories tall, maybe like 4 or 5 stories, not that very high, or they can be very, very tall. It just depends. But they would put these things near mass transit. What that means is there's a bus station or a train station nearby, and they reduced the amount of requirements for parking spots. They probably did like it used to be like 2 parking spots to a unit. I think they reduced it to one, depending on where you are and depending on how many units there are. So they weren't requiring that many parking slots. But on top of that, they've been eliminating gas utility lines, so turning everything electric because it's supposed to be better for the environment. No, not necessarily. It's more like if they so want to, ahead of the advent of the smart devices, because now with the smart home thing, it can be controlled. So if these are commercial developers, and I've seen this happen, it's happened in Denver not too long ago when there was a heat wave going through, people were trying to turn the air conditioners on, and they were locked out of their air conditioners by their smart thermostat because there was a sign that said you're at 78 degrees because the grid is overloaded. You can't bring it any lower than here. And it shocked people. But I've done a bunch of episodes to warn you about that very thing. And it's nothing new. So it doesn't take that much of a stretch to then go dystopian and think about a government doing this and then having people live in their homes. That kind of happened in 2020, didn't it? So just letting you know that these initiatives, they've been long in advance. And just like there's government websites, the stuff is posted there. So some people are like, oh my gosh, you're doing it in secret. No, they depend on you not reading because you don't want to do the work. It's right there. They post about it. They boast about it in many cases. But unless the media, the gatekeepers of information, tell you about it, you might not know. Or worse yet, you just won't care. But yes, we're going to need a helipad for my Batwing. Okay, let's see. And I think I read enough of this. Uh, what's this? Oh, cool. Good news from my partner Ganjin World. I'll check the message out in a moment. The corporation sent one to me, and so did YouTube. So hopefully that means it's good news and not bad news. Okay, so let me get to this article from Realtor.com and let me parse through it because I think it was pretty long. Let me see. Yeah, it's very long, and I can't be here all day. So for those of you just tuning in across everything that you're watching, especially for those of you on Rumble, because this is a Rumble mainstream where I'm broadcasting everywhere else. This goes out to you guys on YouTube, over on Locals. Yes, you have about 6.5 minutes left to jump over to Rumble, but don't worry, you're not going to miss out on anything too important. Twitch, D Live, Gangjin World, Play TV. Seriously, appreciate all of you joining me here on a Wednesday after it's been a crazy last week, and I've been in a bunch of meetings since yesterday and today. Nothing that I can get into with you guys, but just letting you know that it's been crazy busy, but I'm feeling a lot better. All right, Realtor.com says Trump says America will not become a nation of renters. Amen. As he touts restrictions on investor home buyers in Davos speech. Yes. So Let's see, do they get into any detail? The new order does not ban, here we go. The new order does not ban institutional home purchases outright, but rather limits conventional mortgage guarantees for such transactions. It will not impact cash buyers or investors who use financing that is not guaranteed by Freddie Mac or Fannie Mae. All right, so let me give you some context to what that means, because that's actually very important. Some people are going to miss that point. If they have cash, which is likely what they have, they are going to buy this. Okay. If they have uh, other kind of lending things, such as a hard money loan that's not through Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, then they can still buy. The thing is, if you guys have heard of a movie called The Big Short, which I did a whole reaction to, it's available exclusively here on Rumble. Check it out. I'll repost it. So make sure you follow me so you can see when I repost the videos. What the what the investors did was take advantage of FHA loans. What are FHA loans? FHA loans are provided by the Federal Housing Authority, and those are basically government-backed loans, pretty much. You still got to come in with some money, but you don't have to come in with so much money. The idea was a low entry cost, and it was more so for the person with the high poor credit history, high debt, low income kind of thing, and all that. But you still have to qualify for it. It wasn't just freely given. Okay, now that's more of a subprime thing where you have to verify that you had the income. So FHA is they're requiring out of 100% value of the property, or in this case the loan, that the loan to value for the property there will cover 93 point 96.5% of the loan. So that means it was a loan for 96.5% of the value. That means you had to come in with 3.5% of said value, which is not very much compared to, say, a conventional loan that requires you come in with 20% of the value of the property. So when you're adding up, it adds up to a ton of money you got to shell out front. And that is just for you to cover the down payment. That's not covering the loan. The loan is sometimes just about as expensive. You got to pay for the points, the origin of the loan, and all these different things. So I'll probably do a series on real estate things if I get an opportunity to, but I'm always busy to do an entire master class on these things. But I'm speaking in generalities here. So an FHA loan means you can come in with that very little money and then just get the rest as a loan. And in those cases, you need two appraisals. That means the bank, in this case, the FHA, is going to send two investigators to make sure that the price of this house is the loan to value, pretty much. Like, it doesn't make sense, or is it overvalued or undervalued, and things like that. Okay, investors took advantage of that during the subprime mortgage mess. So they were buying up a bunch of these loans, with properties with these loans, and outbidding other people that had a rightful shot at this thing. And it was already difficult enough to qualify. It's not that easy to qualify. It doesn't matter how much I tell you subprime mortgage mess. Some people that shouldn't have been buying were buying, but it still required a process. So anyway, fast forward. What Trump is saying here, or at least the Realtor.com is explaining, that the executive order is saying it's not going to stop people from, or investors from buying if they have cash, or investors that use financing that are not guaranteed by Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac. Okay. So that would be conventional and FHA. Those are the ones that are guaranteed by Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. If it's not that, then those should be okay. All right. So now we have the. I won't be able to talk about how the pricing of homes have increased. That I will save for likely tomorrow when I do my reaction to Ben Shapiro's sit down with Gavin Newsom. It might be a reaction within a reaction to a reaction, because I saw that Steven Crowder did the same thing, and every time he's covered at least twice some housing things, I've really liked it. So there was one that he did was it was a little too long for me to try to give commentary on it, so I didn't. But this one looks like it's a shorter clip, so I plan to do that one tomorrow, and I might have someone on with me so we can react to it together. So we'll see about that. But the executive order restricts mortgages for large investors, so that means the investors still have a shot at buying these things, but not competing in the mortgage market with other mortgagees. So I think that's fair. We'll see. So what's important to note, and this, now I'm going to bring myself to the frame here, because especially now wrapping up here. One of the big things is that the medium home buyers right now are like 59 years old. The medium age for first-time home buyers is reaching a record high of 40 years old. Okay, that's crazy. I bought my first house at the age of 18. It wasn't my primary residence. It was an investment property. And then I ended up buying other ones. Yes, this was during the time of the subprime thing. But I was not buying that I couldn't afford it. I was buying because I could. So in investing, I was doing what you probably would hear is fix and flip. Buy it, fix it, put it back on the market, sell it. There's a stoppage time though. There was a rule of 90 days. 90 days had to go by if I was using that type of loan in order to resell. So that's what I did, with the exception of one particular property. I couldn't sell because in the market turn, the mortgage meltdown happened. That property was underwater already. It just took a long time to get that thing built, because that one I did build on that land. It's just that the Los Angeles County took their sweet precious time, and then by the time I wanted to sell, there were some interested renters. So and I knew them too. So I'm like, okay, maybe, but you just got to know that it's more attractive if I sell it empty. But they needed a place, so okay, fine. And then sure enough, they were not good tenants. Ended up leaving of their own accord. Left me with debt though, and then the market turned, and I couldn't get my money back. So that became a property I had to keep, and I'm glad it's been paying dividends over the past few years, because refinancing really helped during the time when the financing was very low, and that was under Trump. So thank you, Trump, to allow me to be able to do that, to save some money there regarding interest rates. But that's all to say that there's a lot of different factors that go into play that affect housing prices. And with respects to the medium age that's going higher and higher every year, that's because it's the same people that could buy in the previous time that medium age was. That's not new first time home buyers per se. The new first time home buyers that came out of 2020 were high earner renters that believed that they were doing the right thing by not buying a home, because they did buy a home of their own, then that means they would increase their carbon footprint. And if they increase their carbon footprint, they're destroying Earth. That was one of the lies they were given, but they were making way more money than I was, and they were living in a high rise, either taking mass transit or buying an EV that would take them from here to there, not knowing that they were doing more harm to the environment with their freaking virtue signaling. So when they were locked in their rooms for months on end, because Eric Garcetti, the mayor, is just absolutely insane at the time, and Karen Bass wasn't any better. But then you have Gavin Newsom on top of all that. Dude, it was an insane time when you're being told you are not important, so you're going to stay here until we tell you that you can get out of your apartment, and all these high rises, and you're seeing on your phone scrolling through it, everybody enjoying a front yard or backyard or both. It's like, dude, it messes with you. A lot of mental issues happen because of that. So some people couldn't go to their own hallways unless they were picking up the food that was dropped off by a dasher. They could do it, but not you, because you didn't matter. You weren't important. Churches had to close. Strip clubs could stay open. The liquor store could stay open. But God forbid that you, as a small business owner that can sell food, open. You can't do that. And there was a woman in downtown Los Angeles who was trying to get by opening her restaurant. And she was shut down by LA City health inspectors or whatever. But right in front of her was Hollywood with all their caterers, because they were deemed essential people. It was disgusting, the draconian stuff that we were only 6 years removed, but now it feels like ancient history. I don't forget it that far long ago, because it's only been 2 years since we were finally able to raise the rent. Because COVID for LA did not end until 2 years ago. And it hasn't ended, because they've been reinstituting some of those policies in the past year for certain sections of LA. That's how insane and draconian rent control is. So how does that tie up to all of this stuff? Rent control is the reason we have the high inflation stuff. Rent control is why we have high increases of homelessness rates, because it doesn't inspire building homes. It inspires building rental properties that do not affect the prices of homes. We are not replacing our aging inventory of homes. We're only rehabilitating the old inventory. I know, because I do the rehabilitation for those properties. I do the inspections. I do the reports. It's insane. It's like we're taking dilapidated buildings that haven't been touched in decades and trying to make them as new as possible without the need of demolishing them and rebuilding them, because that's a lot slower to do. So if we have 10,000 units, we haven't built anything new. We're just returning the same amount of units for sale. Meanwhile, they're building more and more luxury apartments. Why do they build luxury? Because the damn rent control. You cannot have massive investments of money and not be able to collect on it, No, if we could just print our way out of debt, we would have. But printing more puts us in more debt. And some people just cannot grasp that. In a recent stream, I talked about the stupid minimum wage thing that's going on in Los Angeles because $20 wasn't enough for fast food workers. Now they're going to be fighting for 30. After the recent minimum wage increase cost at least 18,000 jobs. Yeah, the solution is to raise it again. Oh my goodness. You're still there. Live search. Higher divorce rates, less people having children, less high-paying jobs, more competition for investors, etc. It's a high list there. There's this. Let me see if I have it here. It wasn't on my notes, but well, I still got a few minutes here. And locals, I know it's appreciated. Thank you so much for tuning in. Um, let's see. I think I have it here. It was a thing that the algorithm threw at me, and I thought was important because it started a very lively chat in the comments. But I need to find it though. Let me see. I should have it here somewhere. No, that's Attack on Titan. That's nothing to do with rental stuff. um, did I remove it? It's on Instagram that I saw it. It was like women outnumber like singles that are living that own a home, and a lot of it had to do with a lot like some of them getting in a divorce and um like taking money from the guy through alimony, whatever. It's just oh here it is. Single women own 2.7 million more homes in America than single men, studies show. And this was from June last year. And in a lending tree study shows shows single women own 2.7 million more homes than single men in the US, even with lower average incomes. Cities like Tampa, New Orleans, and Buffalo have the largest gender gaps. Experts say women often prioritize stability, plan financially, and buy homes earlier. So that's what pissed a lot of dudes off. Because, well, this guy's probably right. He said OnlyFans works miracles. Someone else said all those divorces. Another one said, "Dare I ask what their methods are?" Someone else put it in too. It's called divorce OnlyFans games. And this one's really true. Welcome to California divorces and female business acumen. Yeah, and um, where is it? A lot of divorces going on. That's someone else commented. I love it when men are salty. Half or more is from alimony and child support, though. Prenup, gentlemen, we are getting robbed. so, so that's what I mean. That those affect numbers, folks. And yes, women might have it, might be owning more because it's still at the backs of the dudes. And then we're living in cars or something. Oh, is this men love to travel for work? Divorced women collect child support. He's just chiming in on that. You're like, yeah. So yeah, that's what I mean. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of stuff that goes on that affects pricing and things like that. And while it is the dream of owning a home, and this goes the same for anybody that's out of this country. Now, I'm not against um the dream for anybody. Like you have the means and ability to do so, by all means do so. I'm just against those that try to buy up and steal from Americans, like the way these large institutional investors have. Those large institutional investors are not just here; they're from out of this country. Some of the big stuff that drove a lot of the home prices up here were a lot of money coming from China. A lot of those billionaire, millionaire types from China were buying up property over here, but they couldn't technically live here. So they would invest through different means, and they were allowed to do this, but they were only allowed to rent. So what they did was they would buy, and this is from actual experience. If you ever come to Southern California and you want to get the Chinatown experience, you will not go to Chinatown in Los Angeles because that's just the more commercialized idea of what Chinatown, Koreatown maybe Little Tokyo too, but it's not Chinatown. That's not where you're gonna get the authentic Asian experience because that is reserved for the San Gabriel Valley. And a lot of us that live here, we know exactly what I'm talking about. So in San Gabriel Valley, I used to do a lot of my what is called farming there. So farming would be as I would search for a radius of properties where I, as a realtor, would want to, you know, to at least introduce myself to the community and tell them my profession, which is what I'm doing, and then try to be of service to the community. And eventually they'll remember me once they try to sell, or if some people try to buy. It's like, oh, so and so selling their property. Let me go introduce you and see if we can work out a deal and things like that. That's farming. So I would tend to it kind of like a farmer would, and I would just walk the places, meet people, talk to people, and things like that. So I did choose an area. It's San Gabriel Valley to do just that. But what I found fascinating was that I never really saw a for sale sign. And what I always found interesting were these little houses that would sit on a lot next to a ginormous building that was considered a single family home but had multiple rooms. That thing looked like an apartment building, but it was technically considered a single family home, a mansion, if you will. So I found out that a lot of these people were buying up these small homes, demolishing them to build these big old things and put what are called homestays in there. That means foreign exchange students or people just in transfer for whatever reason. Oftentimes there were exchange students, and they would be the ones staying there. That's crazy. Some of them would occupy single family homes. That's why you would see a bunch of kids coming out of a house, like, where are the parents? It's like there's a caretaker. There were crazy things happening in Irvine. That's in Orange County, not Los Angeles. San Gabriel Valley is in Los Angeles, just outside of LA. So in Irvine, there was an FBI raid at three different places in Irvine that had it was like a place that was reserved. These condos and apartments were reserved for pregnant women, but late third trimester, because they were not Americans, they were not immigrants, they were on a temporary visa, but they were impregnated by these wealthy types in China and sent these women that they impregnated over to the United States to spend the rest, like whenever they were traveling. So that means at least 3 months. The last trimester, they will spend it here so they could have an anchor baby. So then this dude can file papers to come over here and supposedly take care of his child, which he wouldn't. So these kind of things, fraud, all of it. Some of these places were bought by outside places to make as a safe haven. These things do happen. They're a lot more complicated than it seems. And one way and all of this contributes to the stealing of people's property. So there is one more note that I had here that I did not pull up, but it's supposed to be a fact check from PolitiFact that someone was spreading around on X. They were trying to use it like, oh, see, another Trump lie regarding renting. So, and yes, for those of you still watching on Play TV, thank you. If you do chime into the chat, by all means, try to keep it to the topic, but I will be wrapping up here momentarily. Thank you. Hold on, not yet. Here it is. PolitiFact. It's an image. I'm not gonna download it. I'll just read it to you. So someone was sharing this. Oh, Trump lie number 3 in his speech at Davos, and they would share this thing. So it reads, Trump misleads in talking point about housing and immigration. Let me see if I can make this bigger. Can I share this tab? Hope you guys can see it. No, you're not gonna be able to see it like this. Let me shrink it. Back to this. All right, so that's the thing I'm sharing. You should be able to see it. Let me make that bigger. I guess it's a little better. That's the last thing I'll share. So this is what it says. Trump said a major factor in driving up housing costs was the mass invasion of our borders. Trump didn't go as far as Vice President J.D. Vance, who said in November that housing is expensive because we flooded the country with 30 million illegal immigrants and because of housing shortage. We rated Vance's statement mostly false. This is from PolitiFact, by the way. And this is how that little statement ends. Evidence doesn't support the idea that immigrants in the country illegally are a primary driver of high housing costs. Instead, experts point to a shortage of millions of homes caused by years of underbuilding. An interest rate surge and increased demand for homes during the pandemic exacerbated the problem. You could not have been more contradictory. Where do these illegal immigrants live? They all pile themselves into a house or the garage, That's where the ADU stuff comes in that I spoke about earlier. That's what it's talking about. Okay. And then because you didn't need to prove that, or it's not required for you to be a citizen to buy a property, there have been people, because it's money, that do buy homes. You don't have to be a citizen or a resident to purchase here if you can show up with money. Not to mention that sanctuary cities like Los Angeles that do not require proof of any citizenship or residency to rent, even, and most landlords probably won't either, because hey, you can pay, all the better. So what are they doing? They're getting up all the rentals. So there's no place for you to stay. And those that are stuck in rent control because everything's priced down, those are the ones that complain a lot because they don't fix this, they don't fix that. Dude, you're still paying $500 a month for a thing that's like $2,000. There was one person living in a 3-bedroom apartment in Santa Monica under rent control that wouldn't move because you had to make them move, you had to pay them to move. And it was thousands of dollars for them to move. It's insane. The things that were supposed to be a protection, a hedge of protection against inflation and keeping the rents down and eliminating or at least reducing homelessness have all done the opposite. But what's the solution all these idiots propose? More of the same. So that's why it's frustrating. Of course, we haven't built more, underbuilding, as they say. So then thank you for admitting that all those stupid apartments that are being built have nothing to do and affect these housing costs, because they don't. So what are we getting at here? We have a state in California, not speaking about the rest of the country, that reduces the amount of new home inventory because they basically encourage underbuilding because they want high rises. They want dense population living. They want to take as many cars off the road as possible. That's why they keep eliminating parking. They say, no, we're going to reserve a third of this for EV parking. Dude, EV wouldn't be for a thing for like another 5 years back then when they passed this law. They started reserving lanes for electric vehicles way back when. They call it, and then they say, oh, these are HOV lanes. So yeah, you know who can use it? Hybrids can use it, buses can use it, motorcycles can use it, but not you peasants. You stay on the other side. You're gonna take 1 hour to drive 15 miles. Oh well, and then they're like, that's not working. Let's turn them into toll lanes in the freeway. They used to be carpool lanes. No. We're gonna do toll roads. So now you can pay to go just a little faster. It won't take you 1 hour. It'll take you 45 to 50 minutes. The amount of stupid that we have to put up with and that people still vote for this crap is mind-boggling. But are they really voting for it? That'll always be a question. And at least for Los Angeles and California, no, they're not. uh, let me catch up with your chat over there live. I got a little passion there. The data center jobs are actually just the same electricians traveling around the U.S. as they finish each one. Oh my goodness, right? And then what's going on with all this danger of AI taking jobs and stuff? For those of you that understand Spanish, I was interviewed about that last year. If I worry about my children coming up in this world and that AI is going to leave them out of a job, the answer was simply no. This is not the first time this conversation has come up, especially in the past 150 years of industrialization becoming a thing for the modern world. But there are ways to work about it. So for those of you that are interested, I will be dropping, I think that episode drops tomorrow, the Spanish clipping about that, the AI thing. And that's for the Spanish channel exclusively on Rumble. And honestly, that's where I got to leave it. I went over time by a few minutes. I got to get back to doing a few things, especially since it's payroll. My employees need to be paid, and I'm the one that pays them. So, all right, that's it. That's where I'll leave it. Thank you so very much, everyone. And for anybody that's curious about real estate resources, since I did say that I work in the capacity, this is the capacity I'm talking about. So legally, I have to put that up there. For those of you listening on audio, my license number, for those of you that are interested, here in Southern California is 019094449. Go check out any resources about real estate at www.segoviares.com. That's segoviarealestateservices.com. Yes, we can have a free consultation because that's what I do. And I might do some master classes about real estate if more interest is ginned up about it, especially with some of the stories that I got to tell, man. There's almost nothing I haven't seen. But live search. Oh, always a pleasure to have you on, bro. Thank you very much, showing some love over on Rumble. So hopefully, for those of you that have been chatting on the other places, hopefully you'll come on over to Rumble and chat on there because they'll like it. Oh, that's right. I gotta pick a place. I want to move some of the chat. So let me see who's out there live right now. Small channel, small channel. Let me see. Um, there's someone's doing music. Are they doing a live for music? Those are premium streams. Don't want to go to the premium streams. There's a faith and religion thing. Who's this? Well, of course, Lo-Fi Girl doesn't need any more uh, things for me to send their way. But is this one live? The best of rock music? But yeah, I'm not a rock fan per se, so that's oh, someone's doing the best of Chopin. Then yes, I'll send you guys over there. Yes, that's my jam. So let me see. I've never done a raid before, so let's see if this works. I'm supposed to type in raid and then put the stream link according to how to use Rumble raids. So this is as the channel owner or a moderator, enter in the chat the command, into the chat box. Then paste your live stream URL on web only. Okay. Well, let's see. Yeah, that's the one. All right. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Enjoy the music. All right, everybody. That's it. Thank you so very much. This is Andres Segovia. I'll see you on the next one. Well, I'm signing